Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya wa din. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear students, this is the first of 4 videos that you should go through that will equip you with the techniques you need to become a Tahfiz student to memorize the Quran. And if you follow these techniques, then the process of memorizing the Quran will be easier for you and the journey will be more pleasant and you will reach your destination as a Hafiz Quran faster, inshallah. Now we start with the first video on the warming up exercises. If you recall the video before this on the questions that you need to know as a Tahfiz student, I did mention about the warming up exercises that you should do before you start to memorize any words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I did mention that these warming up exercises has nothing to do with physical warming up exercises because there's nothing physical about memorizing the Quran, but it is more of the spiritual and also the mind process. So we need to do a warming up exercise for our heart and for our mind. Now there are actually 7 warming up exercises you should do. Number 1 is to take wudu. It's very important because you're going to hold on to the mushaf, and to hold on to the mushaf, you must have the wudu. Even though you are holding not a mushaf, but a translation of the Quran, it is still better for you to take the wudu. This is part and parcel of being, of the etiquette of being a Tahfiz student, right? And having wudu constantly is better than not having wudu. That is, if you can take wudu. Number 2, put on a proper attire. And when I mention about proper attire, it means covering your aura. Okay, and covering your aura is a very basic thing. And we all know what's our aura. But beyond that, proper attire is just not just covering the aura, but covering it properly. So for male students, it is better for you to put on your songkok, to cover your head, and for the female students to put on your hijab properly. And then when you are properly attired, you are more receptive in transferring the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the mushaf to your heart, because you are already receptive, you're already at that proper mood and proper state. This is warming up exercise number 2. All these are preambles, the things that you need to do. Number 3, it is good and recommended that you face the Qibla when you want to memorize the Quran, right? Of course, this is not compulsory because none of us has the opportunity to face the Qibla when we memorize the Quran. But if you have the opportunity to face the Qibla because that's the best direction for all Muslims. Number 4, if you already have your wudu and you're already covering your aura and you're already facing the Qibla, what's stopping you from performing just 2 rakaat of salat? A very simple sunat salat. Right? It's not an obligatory salat. And if you ask what type of salat should I perform? Perform salat sunat hajat. That is one of the best salat to perform, right? If you want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. So we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this process of memorizing the Quran easy for us, to make us remember those verses, right? And therefore, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that favors, and the best way to ask Allah for that favors is to perform 2 rakaat salat, right? You don't have to recite any surahs in each of the rakaat. You just recite Surah Fatiha, then do your ruku and all the way, and then you do a salam. So if you have the opportunity, perform 2 rakaat salat before you start to memorize the Quran, right? This is something very effective. Now, number 5 is to say the istighfar 3 times. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Istighfar is seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness for all our past sins. That is important because our heart, when we commit sinful acts, our heart will be dirtied, we will get hardened, and when it's dirty and get hardened, it is more difficult for the heart to be receptive of the Quran. Right? It is more difficult for the Quran, for the heart to absorb the words of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So we need to clean our heart before we pour inside our heart the words of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And then the way to clean our heart is to say the istighfar and seek forgiveness from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala from all our past sins. So that is important also. Say the istighfar. Now, number 6, what you should do before you start to memorize the Quran is to say the Shahadah. After you say the istighfar, you say the Shahadah. Now, the Shahadah here is to renew our faith to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, to renew our iman or conviction to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Yes, we are still Muslims, right? But when we do a lot of sinful acts, we lessen our Islamic state in us. So we say the Shahadah to renew the faith. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. I profess that there is no God beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I profess that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger and prophet. So you say the Shahadah one time. Then after that, don't forget, after you mention Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, give the salawat and salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam 3 times. Okay? Give the salawat to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam 3 times. But just saying Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Or you can be more than that. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Do not forget to give our salawat and salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is actually the key, right, to make our ibadah be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to make this process of memorizing the Quran easier for us. Do not ever forget to give our salawat and salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The more, the better, right? But the minimum is 3 times, right? So after saying the istighfar, you say the Shahadah 1 time, and then you give the salawat to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam 3 times. That is step number 7. Then after step number 7, you go to step number 8, right? This is saying the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this process easy for you and to accept your ibadah. Because memorizing the Quran is a noble ibadah. So you say this dua in English, Ya Allah, I want to memorize your words. So you say your intent. Your intent is to memorize the word. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better, but we are being humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We say that, oh Allah, I want to memorize your words. So please make it easy for me and accept this ibadah. Okay? So this dua is important, right? We ask Allah for anything that is good for us. So before we embark on memorizing any verse of the Quran, we mention or we recite this dua. After reciting this dua, the last part of this exercise is to recite ayat 164, Surah Al-Baqarah. This you can find it in the Quran, right? And this is one of the tips given by past scholars. It's their practice when they want to memorize anything, not just the Quran, but the Hadith or whatever, right? They will recite this verse because there's some miracles, something that is good behind this verse. So you recite this verse, 164 Surah Baqarah. Then after you finish reciting this verse, that's when you can start to memorize the new verse of the Quran. And inshallah, when you start to memorize those new verses of the Quran, right, your heart and your mind are already receptive to receive those new verses. And the process will be easier, right? Because you have done the warming up exercises for the heart and for the mind. So let me repeat it again, right? These 9 exercises that you should do before you start memorizing the Quran. Number 1, take wudu. Number 2, cover your awrad. Number 3, face the Qibla if you can. Number 4, perform 2 Rakaats Salat if you already have wudu and covering awrad and facing the Qibla and you have the time, perform 2 Rakaat of Salat. Then after that, say the istighfar 3 times. Seek forgiveness from Allah SWT for all the past sins. And then say the Shahadah 1 time to renew our faith to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And then number 7, don't forget the Prophet SAW, our beloved Prophet. Give our salutations and our salam to him. You can do it 3 times if you want to, but if you can't do it and you are in haste, you can just do it 1 time. It's up to you. But minimum at least 1 time. Okay. And then number 8, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your ibadah and to make this process easy for you. This stuff is easy for you. And number 9, before you start to memorize the new verses of the Quran, recite first the verse 164, ayat 164 of Surah Al-Baqarah. And inshallah, with these nice steps, right, nice steps in your warming up exercises before you proceed on to memorize the Quran, it will make things easy for you, inshallah. Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. So after this, you can follow the video on the first technique, the basic technique on memorizing the Quran, just by clicking the link here, inshallah. And I see you in that video. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.